Speedsters are common in media, really common. You can look at any piece of fiction that involves superpowers and it most often goes monkey hit hard, monkey run fast, and monkey big brain. Comics have The Flash and Quicksilver, shows of Red Rush and Speedy Gonzales, and movies have Dash and Turbo. You can probably think of a million more characters in comics, movies, and shows that are speedsters, but let me ask you this. Can you think of a single character in a video game who is considered a speedster? Oh, you can? Sonic? Alright, can you think of a single character in a multiplayer video game who's a speedster? Before you answer that, let me define what a speedster is to me. Usain Bolt was the fastest human ever and he was twice as fast as the average person. So for someone to have superhuman speed, they've got to be over twice as fast as the average character in the game. Now you might say, wow, you are really lowballing what qualifies as super speed. If they have to just be over twice as fast as the average character, I'm sure a ton of characters qualify as speedsters. I couldn't find any. Look at the current closest contenders for speedsters in popular multiplayer games. Actually, before I talk about examples, let me get a disclaimer out of the way. When I say a character must be twice as fast, it doesn't mean they just need to reach a top speed that's over twice as fast. They need to be consistently twice as fast. This rules out things like grapple hooks, dashes, teleports, and stacking speed buffs. It can't be a case of X character moves super fast for 2 seconds before everything goes on cooldown. They have to be over twice as fast as the average character for at least the majority of the time you're playing them. Why does the time that fast matter? If I shot myself out of a cannon, it would feel like a stretch to call myself a speedster. I'm also going to rule out vertical movement. I know this is kind of picky, but to me a speedster represents horizontal movement much more than vertical movement. When I say speedster, you think of running fast, not flying. Scout is one of the most iconic fast characters in video games. Despite having very low health and one of the weakest primary weapons, he's still considered one of the best characters based solely on his speed. Surely he must be a lot faster than his comrades. 33%. Scout moves a third faster than the average merc. Even with a fully charged babyface blaster, Scout only moves 73% faster. TF2 was an old game though. What about a more recent example? Neon's best is 35%. Valorant is a slow game though. What about a game that moves a lot quicker? Overwatch 2's fastest character is Wrecking Ball, offering double the movement speed of the average character when in ball form. So close. Maybe the genre is the issue. What about a MOBA? League of Legends' fastest character is Cassiopeia, and even with max movement speed items, she doesn't come close. Alright, this is kind of taking a while, so I'm going to quick fire off some more examples. Thea, less than 16%. Dota 2's cap is 550, average is about 300. Kimberly, give or take 20%. Iron Man's is just under double, Octane is a 40% boost, and R6's biggest difference isn't even 30%. If all of these games don't have speedsters, then what's the holdup? The first reason is balance. Movement speed is a really strong attribute in games because of just how much it offers. It helps with tankiness by making it harder for enemies to hit you. It helps with damage by allowing you to catch up to enemies. The strongest benefit it offers though is allowing you to pick your fights. Normally, if two characters have the same level of move speed, then if one starts running away, the other has an equal ability to follow and vice versa. Now let's make one of those characters a speedster. If the speedster no longer wants to fight, they can just disengage. If the speedster really wants to fight, then good luck escaping. This means that any fight is on their terms. This makes speed really hard to balance, so the solution most devs come up with to have speed in their games are dashes. By giving the player a temporary burst of speed, they allow for those quick, agile characters by balancing them out with the addition of cooldowns. Now, instead of being able to pick your fights without any risk, you need to carefully consider when to use your movement in order to not run out in a sticky situation. If cooldowns are used to balance high movement characters, how could you balance a speedster? Well, game devs have tried a couple of options. Option 1, have the speed fluctuate, either acquiring acceleration or removing it upon taking damage or attacking. Option 2, require it to be stacked up over time and then removed upon death. Option 3, nerf other stats as speed goes up. These options work for lower levels of speed, but as it ramps up, they work less and less. Losing speed upon dying or getting hit doesn't feel as bad when you just don't die or get hit. I'm not just here to complain about other people's balancing attempts though, so I'm going to share my 3 ideas for how to balance speedsters. First idea, give the speedster an outline so the enemy can see where they are at all times. Removes the element of surprise. Idea 2. Force the speedster to remain chained to a target. This way you can be a speedster when it comes to dodging, but not when it comes to dodging fades. Idea 3. Link the speed to your proximity to the enemy. This helps when it comes to balancing run back and rotation time, which is a very big deal for some games. Speedsters aren't in games only for balance reasons though. A speedster's whole deal is that they run faster than everyone else. This creates the problem of having to react quicker than everyone else. Most media solves this by saying that the speedster has superhuman reaction speed as well, but this doesn't work in video games. How do you make a speedster playable by a person with human reaction time? Super easily, barely an inconvenience. People can just adjust to fast moving stuff really well. It might be hard for the first couple of hours of playing a properly fast speedster, but after a little while, it'll just feel slow to play anyone else. This creates a problem though, because if it takes a couple of hours for people playing the speedster, imagine how many games it's going to take for people playing against the speedster. This is another problem for balance, but I don't think it's a problem for actually playing the character. You look at any of these fast reaction time, high input, quick movement characters, and good one tricks will show you firsthand that the character can and will be played at a really high level. Your teammates will also show you that the character can be played at a really low level, but having a high skill ceiling, low skill floor isn't necessarily a bad thing in games. Reaction time isn't the only issue though. Anyone who's played Scout before knows that aiming a scattergun while actually making use of his speed and mobility is an absolute nightmare. Speeding your character up doesn't just make it harder for the enemy to hit you, it makes it harder for you to hit the enemy. Now again, this is literally just a skill issue, but it does mean that any speedster that requires aiming is going to have an even higher skill ceiling and an even lower skill floor. I don't think this is a huge problem, but a lot of games do try and avoid that high elo only style of character. So far I've talked about how balance and controls have stopped the speedster play from spreading to video games, but what about using controls to balance them? By adding in difficult controls to speedsters such as slow deceleration and sliding, you can limit the speedster's ability to get in and out of a fight by just making it hard to actually pull off getting in and out of a fight. I have two problems with this approach though. The first is that if it's done wrong, it can just make the speedster feel really bad to play. The second is that if you get good enough, this is no longer enough to balance the speedster, it's a feature. Snipers are a map designer's worst nightmare. A player being able to one-shot another player from halfway across the map changes how maps have to be made. Sightlines have to be limited, otherwise snipers just become the best option. Speedsters are the same. One of the speedster's best traits is that they're hard to hit. Imagine you're trying to hit this guy in an open field. Now imagine you're trying to hit this guy in a corridor. Now add splash damage. The wider the map, the wider the speedster to everyone else's gap. This adds a whole nother layer of friction when devs attempt to implement speedsters into their multiplayer games. So why are there no speedsters in multiplayer games? Hard to balance, hard to play, and hard to make maps for. I think a speedster is doable in a multiplayer game, but whether or not a game dev wants to try and balance it, I don't know. To me, speedsters feel like an impossible dream. The fantasy of running rings around the enemy, ducking in and out, and doing big damage is great for the speedster, not so great for everyone else. This is why you so much more often see them in single player games. I do hope that a game studio takes the risk and goes through the effort because I imagine a speedster would be really fun to play.